inside the recording studio. I am Jody Whitesides, and with me is Mr. Chris Hellstrom.
Hi, Jody. How you doing?
I'm alive and slightly unwell.
Well, I hope you feel better soon. That's a lot of rough stuff going around, so I'm sorry you're a little bit under the weather.
Yeah, funny that.
Yeah, but you're a pro, and you're here showing up to this inaugural podcast.
Damn right.
Inside the recording studio.
Damn right.
So what are we going to do here with this podcast? What's our goal?
My understanding is that we're going to try and give some tips and tricks to all the other wonderful producer and recording engineers out there, even some mix engineers too.
That's the idea. That's the idea. So I guess we're going to try to go a little bit from our personal experience and things that we've learned along the way.
I figured I'd hold a seance and try to get other people in on this from the afterlife.
Best of luck with that. So we're going to try to, like I said, share some of the ideas and things that we've come across the way. Well, we've been doing this for quite a few years.
Yeah, quite a few.
Hopefully make the journey. Yeah, right. I need a lot of digits to kind of count that.
Might have to get my toes involved too.
Yeah, right. But hopefully make the journey a little bit smoother, and hopefully little tips and tricks that I wish somebody would have told me or encouraged me to learn when I started out.
Right?
Yeah. So how did you get into this whole recording thing, Jody? What made you, I guess, want to be a musician and later on as well as a recording engineer and producer?
Let's see. If I think back really hard, way back, when I was first learning to play, I actually had this weird, odd desire, having read an article or an interview with Mr. Frank Zappa.
Oh, really?
Stating that it would have been a really good idea to always own your own publishing and your own masters. And I think he was talking technically from personal experience, so it wasn't so much that it's probably a good idea. It was his theory that it was a good idea.
It's definitely a good idea.
Somehow that stuck with me. So I started out recording on a Porta-1 Tascam Mini Studio, learning how to record my own oddball creations until they got a little bit more commercially acceptable. But there were a lot of transitions along the way between that oddball stuff and the modern recording systems of today.
Sure, definitely. Yeah. But what made you, because that leap, not just owning your own publishing, couldn't have triggered just that idea, but what made you...
Well, it was the own your own masters segment too.
Right.
Not only did he say publishing, he also mentioned your own masters.
Sure. So... But what sparked the interest from that? Was it strictly, it couldn't have been strictly just a business standpoint. It had to be some form of interest, or was it one of essentially just self-preservation at first?
Actually, it was more just an extreme love of sound.
Right.
For whatever reason, sound is just super sexy to me. It's like really sexy, even though I don't have a sexy voice right now.
Yeah, with your throat, you sound a little bit like Barry White.
Oh,
today.
I'm not quite that deep, but I'm close.
We're getting close, baby.
Yeah, baby.
Yeah. Okay, so a love for sound, and what started you on the journey to wanting to be a musician? Was there a lot of music when you grew up, and
no.
Sparked the love? No,
that was actually pretty dumb. It's a funny story. I mean, it's not, I don't know if it's necessarily funny. High school situation, air band contest.
Right.
Group of us got together to do Ozzy Osbourne's Crazy Train. And
on air guitar?
No, actually, I was originally the air bassist. And then we had the lip sync Ozzy guy dressed up in a bathrobe and holding a fake bat and pulling the head off with jelly on it to kind of stimulate that story that he ate a bat head or whatever.
Inadvertently. Yeah.
Inadvertently. But we did it as a joke to that homage of that. And as we were rehearsing, the original guy that was supposed to play the air guitar just couldn't hack it. It just looked awful. So I had a buddy who was a guitar player that knew how to actually play the song and had a Gibson Les Paul. And so he was cool enough to let me borrow the guitar, was cool enough to sit me down for about 20 minutes and show me, at this point of the song, put your hand here and kind of do something like this. And at this point, do this. So he just kind of gave me the general areas of where I should put my hand and just kind of wave my fingers around like I'm playing something. And when we got done, unfortunately, we did not win, which was really sad because we were the ones that went all out and like really did it. But being in a small town in Utah, people didn't appreciate the quote unquote satanicness of Ozzy Osbourne. So we only finished in third, unfortunately. But everybody that was friends with me or saw the thing were coming up to me and be like, dude, you really know how to play guitar? Because it looked like you really knew what you were doing. I was like, do you really play? I'm like, it's this easy to fool you. I'm going to learn to do this for real. So that's the story behind that. How about yourself? What got you into recording?
I think it was just, I mean, I'm dating myself here, obviously, but this was going back to, the Porta Studio days. I started really, really early on with a friend of mine, a band I was playing it with.
Boombox to Boombox?
No, not that bad, but it was Tascam 4-track.
Yeah, the Porta 1 or the Porta 2?
You know what? I don't remember. But the idea of that, and we were recording our own songs, and these are the days where the drums were done with a drum machine. So you had to you programmed the little patterns, and you might have had, 2 or 3 patterns for the whole song, right? And you actually had to sit there and count the bars that you had to, and then you had to switch to the different pattern. But anyway, long, boring story shorter, that's where it started. Just the idea of being able to listen back to something that you had done.
Right?
I thought that was really, really cool.
That's what makes sound so sexy.
Right. And then it wasn't until later I'm talking like the early 90s, where I had my own, this was a Tascam 488, that little 8-track.
Ooh.
Yeah, very sexy. Oh, no, I thought that was the most cool thing at all, or the whole world at that point. But I had that and started out, and we've talked about this in private, you and I as well, but I had the Atari 1040 ST.
Oh, yeah. Had one of those myself.
Yup. And running Cubase on that, so it was the old thing. You sequenced everything in that and dumped it onto 2-track on the Tascam and evolved from there. But
that was back in the days of running SMPTE timecode on a particular track on a 4-track, so you could sync all the stuff with what you were recording.
Yeah, that's something that I didn't do with that. I figured I was young enough and ignorant enough where I was thinking, you obviously had to do the ping-ponging type of thing.
Oh,
right?
yeah,
So
yeah. Bouncing lots of tracks.
Yeah, lots of tracks
down.
back and forth, right. But just the idea there of being able to get the most out of the gear and like I said, being able to listen back to something that you did. And this is obviously way, way before DAWs and everything really, really took off, where everybody and their uncle has a setup at home. But so that started intriguing me, and I guess I got really, really deep into it more toward the later 90s, where I sort of fell out of favor with the guitar. I'm a guitarist by nature. That's why I started. Or by nature, that's a strong word. Yes, yeah, by nature, I was born and bred. No,
you're a Swede. You're famous for guitar players,
aren't we? Though. So that's when it started becoming a little bit more interesting, and I got into more. At this point, you could track audio into your DAW as well, so that was really intriguing, and it was something that was different. And just learning how to do it better. And it was always that, trying to just get as good as you can.
Sure.
So the whole idea of being able to control the whole process was really appealing.
Right.
Yeah. So
power to the musician.
Yeah. Something like that, right? And it was fun. It was different for me than just learning an instrument and just doing that. Instead, you could kind of take all the pieces and mold it into something and try to make it sound cool.
Like
So-
Clay in the movie Ghosts. Just kidding.
Yeah. Yeah, nothing like that. But no, so I think that's where it started. But I was always around music at home from an early age. I always remember there was always music around. And for me, it was like a lot of people my age, it was Kiss that really triggered it, wanting to start playing.
Ooh.
Yeah,
Would it
I wanted to
pain
be
you to know that I got to meet them in that era without their makeup before anybody knew who they were?
Ooh, you're so special.
I was.
Yeah. No, at one point I would have given body parts to have done that, but yeah,
I was kind of dragged along, so I wasn't given anything.
yeah. No, I know. Yeah, all you had to do, well, it was your dad, right?
It was my dad, yeah.
Yeah.
He did some artwork for them. Or actually,
Yeah.
not for them, but of them for their manager. And we got to go meet them at their rehearsal space. And I was like this wee little kid.
Yeah. Yeah. So that's what was triggered it. But that's a little about my background when it kind of started. But the topic of this first podcast, I'm switching gears kind of quickly, but
Oh, I feel like I just downshifted. Am I
Right?
watching Ford versus Ferrari? I don't know.
are you strapped in?
I
Here we
am.
go.
I'm in my chair. Let's go.
Yeah. Is the idea of sort of like an overarching type of thing and to be really comfortable with the gear that you're using.
Well, how do you get really comfortable with the gear you're using?
I think you shouldn't be afraid to ask questions. You shouldn't be afraid to, number one, don't be afraid of manuals.
Ooh, that's a good one.
RTFM. So, and secondly, just diving in, just doing it and practicing it. There's no thing as just, oh, I'm going to start and I'm going to be great at it. And
Boy, I listen back on some of those things as I'm going through archives right now, and I'm like, ooh, I was ignorant.
yeah. But I guess that's part of the beauty, right? That you hopefully you learn a little something along the way. It would be bad if you had the opposite experience. You know, you listen back to something, ooh, I was really good back then. What happened? You know?
That'd be the exact opposite effect of everything you'd want. Oh my God, I was so brilliant back then. What happened to me now?
Right? Oh, I was great back then. I want to go back to that. No, so just knowing your gear. And to this point today, I mean, we're talking about basically your computer and your DAW. I think most people are in the box today.
Yeah. I'd agree with that statement.
So you have to be comfortable, you know, whether you're a Mac person or you're a PC person, Windows.
Hi, I'm a Mac.
Yeah.
Are you a PC?
I am not. I'm most definitely not. But that's not what this is about. It doesn't matter today if you're a Mac person or if you're a PC person. But know your operating system well enough that
You can get around it.
you can get around it. You can troubleshoot if things aren't working. The only, just as an A side to that, it doesn't matter PC or Mac. It does in some cases if your DAW is only like, we're both Logic users, you and I, that's a Mac only platform. But anything else,
that it is.
you know, whether you're Cubase, you're Ableton Live, you're a Pro Tools user, what have you, doesn't matter. Everything is good today. Just be comfortable using it and be able to troubleshoot. And
I think the best thing to say about that is use what makes your workflow cool and easy for you.
Absolutely. It's, you know, the better you know your DAW, the easier your workflow will be. Or
That's the hope anyway.
right. Yeah. I mean, if a piece of software is just sort of like fighting you all along the way, then maybe it's time to check out something else. But I think every DAW today can do just about everything that you needed to.
Ooh, just about. I think there's a couple that could use a little bit of work. Logic being one of them, Pro Tools being the other.
Yeah, it's always different things, right? Depending on what you do. I mean, if you're
Synchronization's a big thing, especially amongst like tracks that are building up on each things. But that's a whole other story. We'll go there later.
Yeah. This is a little bit of a painting with broader strokes.
It's a pain in the britches.
Yeah, absolutely. that too. But I mean, in all seriousness, if you're let's say that if you're a DJ and you're primarily perhaps
Scratching.
working with loops and things like that. Ableton Live might be a great one.
Oh, yeah.
And if you're using bunch of audio tracks, another one might be a better suited choice for you. But everything is good. Just know the piece of gear that you're working with so that you can get around. I think
Key commands are your friends.
key commands are your friends. Learn them. And here's a little tip. First tip.
Tip number 1. Is this going to go
Tip
down as a
number 1.
Tuesday 2-minute tip? Or is
It
it just
might.
it might. Okay, yeah.
It might.
Okay.
When I started nerding out really with Logic, I made it an effort. I'm going to learn every key command, and I'm going to map everything to key commands that make sense to me, and blah blah blah. And today, I think that's completely the wrong approach. Instead of trying to digest all the key commands at once, learn the ones that you use frequently first, and start those, and then build from there. When you start using different tasks, repetitive tasks, keep using those and learn those. So don't bother trying to learn everything at one point.
Here's one thing I'd suggest about that.
What's that?
Most DAWs give you the ability to change the key commands to whatever you want. But I would encourage you to learn where the standard key commands are that you're going to use so that if an upgrade happens, you don't suddenly get left out in the wind.
Right. Yeah.
Good chance is that the DAW is not going to change its standard key commands. And then if you have something that's a little more specialized that's not standard, then you can adjust that and put it somewhere on your keyboard that makes sense to you.
Right. And also if you happen to do a session at somebody else's studio,
you can save your key commands and take them with you.
You can do that, but it's also, you don't want to sit down, and I've done that several times where key commands I've used for, 15 plus years. And then I find myself at somebody else's workstation. I'm like, why is that not working? That's not
because they have different key commands. And
they
that's
have
why I suggest
right.
the standards.
Right. But even the standards, I know at least with Logic, have changed over the years. So
once or twice, I think they've changed maybe 2 times in giant sweeping reforms of the updates of an app of Logic. But outside of that, they don't tend to generally change too much.
It's just equally as jarring every time it happens.
Yes, it is. It's like,
why is that?
Why did they do that?
Yeah. Yeah. And then you have to go in and
relearn,
reconfigure them back again. Yeah. So learning a few at a time, I think, is a great way of doing it. One thing that I wanted to bring up was, as we're talking about sounding obvious, but learn the gear that you're working with.
Yes.
But I've come across people where, they ask, and it's not necessarily something wrong with that, but they ask the most rudimentary questions. And
what is a rudimentary question?
Well, it could be things like, how do I record on a track? Or how do I do this? Well, you have to be willing to do a little bit of research for yourself and not,
that's a manual thing.
That's a manual thing, or just be able to, or be willing to learn a little bit about sitting down and learning the tools that you have. Just like in the days of when everybody was recording to tape, you had to learn how to work the tape machine.
Yeah.
Right? That was just like, you just got to have to do that.
Special button just to play record. And you had to make sure you had the tabs in the tape cassette. If you're talking port of 1.
Well, that too.
It wouldn't record because it would just stop you.
I'm talking if you're like reel to reel, if you're doing recording to 2-inch tape, and you had to learn how to actually use the tape machine and all the biasing and all this kind of stuff. So you have to kind of know a little bit about it. You don't have to be
a god.
Be a living encyclopedia of doing it, but you should know
more than one thing.
More than one thing, and just to be. When you're writing or you're tracking somebody else, there's nothing that kills the workflow faster than, oh, wait, we have a problem here. You guys go for lunch and I'll try to figure out what this is.
Actually, you know what else kills a workflow?
I
thought I knew that key command. Where is it?
Well,
that kills a workflow too.
Yeah, could be too. So that's when you keep that
How do you
dialogue.
turn on the click?
That's how you keep that dialogue in yourself, and you sheepishly look up the key commands in your DAW. So you got to know that key command too, right?
Right.
Option K. So where was I? Yeah. So none of the software is going to do everything for you as much as you want it to do. You have to tell it what to do, and getting around. I know I'm belaboring a point here, and it sounds like I'm probably lonely up here on my pedestal, but
You are. I'm not
I
there
am.
with you.
But learn your gear, get comfortable with it, and don't be afraid of just diving in and messing around. Not with somebody else's project. I wouldn't recommend that. But when you have some downtime when you're learning your system, sit down and just track stuff. And
I feel like you could say, one, we've already said it, read the manual. Two, be like Horseshack. Ooh, 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 ooh. Oh, Mr. Carter, I know the answer. Or you ask somebody by raising your hand and be like, I got a question.
Yeah. And just be inquisitive, I guess, and be humble enough that you don't know how to do everything yet.
Oh, come on. You're not humble at all. I'm just kidding.
I'd like to think I am. So, you can always learn a new way of doing something, and just getting better at what you do.
Yeah.
So, yeah, really belaboring the point. Learn your gear, get comfortable with it, whatever it is that you do. And this is obviously encompassing for all kind of styles that you might do. This doesn't matter if you're, a beat maker or you're, tracking orchestras or whatever it is. It's just, you should always just kind of know your gear. And have a lot of fun doing it, because it is a lot of fun. It really, really is.
Oh, yeah. Fun, baby. Fun.
Absolutely.
Excuse my squeaky chair. I feel like I need to oil this bitch.
You sound a little squeaky there today, my friend.
I wasn't
you don't
talking
sound
my voice. My voice is already squeaky. It's my chair.
Well, that too. But you sound like you're suffering a little bit. So I wish you the best.
Ooh, thank you.
Yeah. So what can we talk about more about gear here? Today, what are you running? What kind of gear are you
Signal
using
shading?
undated? Well, let's start with your machine.
My machine. I'm running a Cylinder Mac Pro, the one that so many people harped on for saying, ew, it doesn't contain everything on the inside. That sucks. You know what? I got it, and it's fast. It's stupid fast. I'm sure the brand new Mac Pro that just came out not too long ago is really cool too, but I don't got one of those yet. I'm still running a Cylinder.
And it still works for you, right?
And it still works great. You know, and the audio interfaces connect via Thunderbolt. Using the Universal Audio Apollo system. I've got the Twin Duo. I've got the Satellite Octo, and I've got an 8P Octo as well. Actually, I think those only come in a quad. Maybe it's yeah, there you go. They quad is as big as they get. But the new ones, the X8P, I think those go actually bigger in terms of the amount of chips that you can get in it.
Very cool. Very cool.
But I love it. It's good. As much as I can love an inanimate object that just sits there and takes in audio.
But you know what? It makes your day-to-day life easier.
It sure does.
And there's something to be said for that.
There's a lot to be said for that.
Yeah. And your DAW, we mentioned it, but your DAW is?
Logic Pro X, whatever the latest version of that is.
It's pronounced 10.
Oh, whatever. It's Logic Pro X10.
That would be... That's one of my giant pet peeves. And
I'm running Logic Pro 10.
I'm a petty man.
Don't be Donald on us now.
Well, no. Let's not open that can of worms on this podcast.
Right. Yeah, gotcha.
Yeah. Okay. And you are tracking mostly in the box as well, obviously.
Well, it's not even mostly. It's entirely in the box. I don't do that analog shit anymore.
Yeah.
Well, what do I mean by that? I guess I play guitars, I play other things. They get recorded via microphones, kind of like this podcast with this big, nice C12 Telefunken sitting in front of my face in the video that you see here, if you're watching the video cast of it. So in that regard, yeah, there's some analog components to things, but they're still going into the box and being mixed in the box and done in the box. So yeah.
Right. Cool. Yeah.
What are you running?
I am also running on the Mac system. I have a 27-inch iMac that is starting to really show its age, but it's limping along.
You just got an SSD for that.
Yes, I did exchange or swap out the internal drive for that. So I have an SSD for that, and bunch of drives sitting on my desk here with all the projects and all this kind of stuff.
And in that regard, I think we're saying you don't need the latest and greatest to create some cool shit. But
no,
having the latest and greatest is kind of an ego trip of wonderful.
Yeah, I mean, anytime, at least in my experience, when I've updated a machine, they certainly, last me a while. They tend to. So I certainly get my money's worth out of them.
Damn right.
But every time you upgrade, it's like, whoa, I can do all of this now. This is awesome.
Well, and that's why I like the cylinder trash can. It's like, it's still lightning fast on all kinds of stuff.
Yeah. So I guess get as big as you can when you're upgrading and as much as you can afford.
Yes, do not go into Hawk to buy your gear. That's a dumb idea.
Yeah, I would. Well, unless you have to. I mean, but
you shouldn't have to. But
well, no, don't overshoot it. I mean, don't sell a kidney just because you want the new Mac, right? But
it might cost a kidney to get one of those.
yeah. There's a funny or sad story depending on your point of view. The people over at Production Expert Podcast, I think they did a test.
Lovely podcast, by the way.
Yeah, amazing, super informative, great stuff there, every episode. But I think they had run a test of the new Mac Pro and everybody was, of course, raving about the PCI systems that you can have cards in them now, and everybody with their Pro Tools HDX cards and everything were really happy. Oh, finally I can upgrade my Mac and I can put these PCIe cards in.
Right.
And in the test, they had realized that you actually got more, and I think I'm giving the right information here, but you could actually get more power running Pro Tools native on that than if you did and you running
PCI card.
Yeah,
I don't doubt that, because PCI is old technology. Now, if they updated it with like faster throughput and then you bought newer PCI cards that were faster throughput, I'd believe that.
Right, but the irony being there that people have been, or Pro Tools users have been clamoring, I need a Mac with PCIe slots to get that, and realize you actually don't need the PCIe slots.
Right.
So,
I mean, that's the thing with the Thunderbolt stuff. It's like, dude, I love the Thunderbolt stuff because it's quick, it's portable, and I don't have any issues with it. I don't need the PCIe cards anymore.
Yeah.
I don't. Maybe in the future there's something that's PCIe that'll be like, oh, I need to have that, and then I go get the Mac Pro and stick it in there. But I've seen, actually, there's another guy who's done a few videos up in Canada, who is a cartoon composer, among other things, who showed him going from a trash can Mac. I think he used two of them, one for all his virtual instruments and one for his running his DAWs with his setup. And he had a pretty powerful setup, and he was able to reduce both of those computers down into a single new Mac Pro. And it's pretty impressive what he can do with it. But at the same time, it was kind of like, yeah, you had a working setup. Did you really need to go there? But, it's, you bite the bullet, you do your thing. And I'm sure at some point I'm going to do the same thing.
Yeah, no, I mean,
future.
It's a good luxury to have. That's for
sure. Yeah.
So, powerful system. So I'm still here limping along on my iMac, but it is working quite well, and it seems like I'm always in the middle of some kind of project. So again, good problem to have, but I'm not able to upgrade just quite yet, but I hopefully will within the not too distant future. Running Logic Pro 10. Yeah. And have been since you turned me on to Logic, actually, Jody, back in the day. Yeah, that was
kind of my fault, wasn't it?
Well, you can take credit for that, and that's going back to, I think it was version 4.6 or 4.7 at that time.
Yeah.
And that was in the days of eMagic.
Yeah, eMagic days when it ran on both Mac and PC. I got kind of pushed into the Logic world by a guy named Matt Hepworth, not the guy that runs the Universal Audio forums, but a different Matthew Hepworth. And here's the humor of that. They're both in Utah.
Oh, that's funny.
So, no, Matt Hepworth, who got me into Logic, he worked at a music store here in Utah, and he's the one that turned me onto it and said, this is the way, this is the light, young Padawan. He is no longer doing music. He's now doing video editing, but I appreciate that he pushed me into Logic, and I just went into it full bore when I got it.
Yeah.
And that I think that was like back when it was Logic Notator still was the name, and it was like version 2 or something like that. It was pretty early on. It didn't even do audio. It was strictly MIDI.
Yeah, that's how I started, but I started with Cubase.
Right.
And it was all just the sequencing. And again, the aforementioned Tascam had to take care of the audio work. And then it went to, Cubase VST when they started audio. And it was about that time when I made the plunge and went with Logic. Yeah.
When they had the eMagic PCIe card that was 14-bit, I think.
Ooh.
2 channels, I think, was all it took in, and 2 channels out plus MIDI in and out. Yeah, that was a fun time playing with a Mac Performa 465 or something like that. Had PCIe slot in it. Yeah, I used that for a long time.
You did, yeah.
Then I upgraded from the Performa to a Power Mac 9500 at the time.
Oh, that was the flagship at the time.
That was the flagship. I bought the farm on that one. But it got me a lot of work, so I can't complain.
Yeah. So again, it paid for itself, right?
It did pay for itself, yeah.
Yeah. I started, I mentioned the 1040. And then
the Atari 1040 ST long before that.
That's where it started. But then it was, what did I do? I think I had a G3, still a little beige box.
Yeah.
And this is one of my favorite things to compare about. I remember thinking I was going to go with either a 4 or a 6 gigabyte hard drive. And I remember I'm never going to need another hard drive again.
Famous last words. Now most productions take more than 6 gigs.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, absolutely. So it's funny. But then it went on to, I think I had the G4, the old leaf blower thing.
Oh, yeah.
Had that. Then it became a G5.
Yep.
The cheese grater.
Yep.
And
had one of those for a long time.
Yeah. Shit.
What?
Oh, sorry.
Uh-oh.
My video camera ran out of space.
Well,
that's unfortunate.
Well, I guess
you just get.
Are we ready to wrap up at this point?
I think we're probably ready to wrap up.
Now that you're shitting.
Right. Sorry, everybody.
This is a podcast land. You can swear. Who gives a fuck?
That's right. Yeah. Then don't fucking listen then.
That's right.
To wrap it up then, I guess we just have to look at Jody and listen to me. But the purpose is get comfortable with your gear, and you'll have a much more pleasant journey toward your end goal.
That is correct. I concur with that, sir.
All right, Jody, on that note, let's quickly wrap it up, and you have a fantastic rest of the day, and I hope you feel better now.
I will do that.
All right, Jody. I'll talk to you later.
Sayonara. See you next episode inside the